Hey guys, it's Lisa and welcome to my channel. Although I'm just about finished with Christmas decor, since it is so late and most people are already decorated for it, I decided to make a winter decor video, and I'll be using tree bark and twigs and pine cones. Now this first one is one that I got from one of my customers in the store. So I have a lady that comes in, and she is from Nashville, Tennessee, but she comes in probably once every few months and buys, and she had been shopping somewhere else, and I wish I could remember where she said it was, but she bought these little trees from a little old lady that was making them, and she said she was very old, so these take a little bit of patience. So I was very impressed, but I loved this idea. And so you first start with this little cone shape out of cardboard, and she didn't even use a strong cardboard. She used the little inserts that go in magazines that have the little perforated lines that you tear out of magazines. So that's what she actually used for the inside of the tree, but you could see through to the bottom. So I decided I wanted to do mine just a little bit different. Hers were absolutely adorable. They were so cute. And I just absolutely love the idea. But again, I want to finish the bottom, and then it'll also add some weight to the bottom. So I just made my little cone shape and then cut the excess away from the bottom. And I think that is probably the hardest part to these because you have to cut them where it will stand up straight. So I just kind of cut a little here and there until I got it to stand up. And the rest is just taking your time and gluing on bark, because these are all going to be made from either bark, twigs, or pine cones. And because all three of those items come from trees originally, I just thought it was appropriate to make some trees out of them. And again, this is winter decor because you can leave this out all winter. It's not going to be limited to Christmas at all. Now, because I left a little bit larger opening in the top than I wanted, then I made a smaller cone and just kind of glued it down inside this one. And the great thing about this is it doesn't have to be perfect at all, because it's all going to be hidden with the bark. Now, I was lucky enough to find a downed tree on my property. So it was already losing its bark, so I didn't have to take bark from any live tree. And I just kind of broke it up into pieces. Here I am just adding some masking tape to hold this together well. And you can buy the cones already made, but this is just a very cheap way of doing them, and you won't know the difference at all once these are complete. Now, what I'm doing to finish the bottom of these is using some little tree rounds that I already had, and I'm going to glue that to the bottom. Again, that will finish the bottom, but also add some weight. And I'm gluing everything here with hot glue because I need it to dry quickly. And paper is going to glue really well to wood with hot glue. And the cardboard will glue also to the bark with the hot glue. So I'm just kind of using some of these small pieces, and I broke most of these up into small pieces. And then I'm going to start at the bottom and just start gluing on the bark. And once I get it all glued on the bottom layer, then I'll keep going around and coming up one layer until I get to the very top. And I used to think that it was a better idea to start at the top, and then because you're going to glue one over the top of it, it makes each layer larger, but that's not how it works. It just doesn't look right if you start at the top. So you need to finish the bottom before you move to your next layer. And most of you know that I like neutral decor, and this is going to be neutral, but I also like decor made from natural elements. And so this is going to be perfect for just about any decorating style. So I'm just making sure that I cover the whole thing up. Now what you could do is paint it brown first, and that way if you have any showing through, you won't notice it because you'll see the brown underneath. But I'm going to kind of layer these over the top of each other, so I'm not going to have any areas showing anyway. And the little lady that did hers even used smaller pieces of bark than I'm using here, and again, it was just so pretty, but I like the look of using the larger pieces also, and then it doesn't take quite as long to do it. Now, once I get the bottom layer on, then again, I just start gluing the next layer on, just slightly overlapping the bottom layer. And I do that to each layer. As I finish one layer, I just start the next one and kind of overlap onto the previous layer. Now, for those of you who don't know already, I always use low temp glue guns. So if I get any on my hands, then it doesn't burn me because I'm used to the heat of that low temp glue gun. Now you do need to make sure that your bark is completely dry. So I would bring it in at least the day before and let it dry out. And I will say that this was a very messy job because I had little bits of bark everywhere. Now when these are finished, I do think it's a good idea to add a clear coat to them to seal the bark in. That way you're not likely to have anything kind of falling off, and it just gives it a lot cleaner, neater look. Now what you could do when you finish these is take some white paint and just kind of dry brush it on here and there to look like it's snow covered, but I'm going to leave this one just the wood color. And once I got this whole thing covered, then I just kind of went here and there and added a little piece of bark where I felt like it needed a little bit more texture. And this is what the first one looked like finished. Now you could add something to the top of this, but I wanted to keep it just with that woodland look, so I didn't want to do any decorations on it. Now this is one that I did from twigs, and I had brought some twigs in during Christmas and painted them and so that they would look like they had snow on them. And so that's the ones that I'm using on this one, because she also did one that was covered with twigs. But I learned quickly that the longer ones are not a good idea. With a tree this size, they need to be shorter. I thought that maybe I could cut some time down by doing the longer ones, but I end up tearing that whole bottom layer off and starting over with shorter twigs. And that worked much better, and I think the finished look is going to be a lot better also. So I just glued these on. I did the same thing that I did with the bark. I started with that bottom layer, and then once I got it completely on, then I started the next layer and just kind of kept layering them on. And you could do these obviously without the white on them. I just wanted to do this one with some white, and because of that I was able to leave the cone white and not have to clear or not have to base coat it. If I were going to do these with just wood colored twigs, I would definitely want to paint this one brown first. And again, I just glued that cone onto one of these little wood slices to have a good solid base. But I think I'm going to like how these look, and they could actually be made any size that you want, so you could make them small enough to go in a tiered tray. But again, you're not going to have very much money in this at all. If you have to buy your wood slice, my husband actually cut this one. He doesn't cut them anymore because they're not real safe to cut. But even if you had to buy your little wood slice, you wouldn't have very much money in this at all. So again, I just kept adding and went all the way up with these one layer at a time. And then when I had it completely covered, if I felt like it needed a twig added here and there, then I would do that, just like I did with the bark. And this is what it looked like finished. So now we've done bark on one of them and twigs on one of them. And then I decided to do a large tree using pine cones. And so I had this little paint bucket that I had done previously, and I put some floral foam down inside it, and I made sure to kind of wedge some down the side so that it was good and solid. And then I had this, actually it was in with the tobacco sticks that I bought, and this one just happened to be round. I don't know if it even was part of that originally, but that's where we got it. And so I thought the round would work perfect, so I cut the length that I needed and stuck it down in that floral foam. And now I'm going to take these pine cones that my daughter picked up from her yard. I like these because they have just a little bit of a curve to them, and I thought they would make good limbs for my tree. So what I'm doing is just hot gluing them on and then wrapping this floral wire around them to kind of keep them in place. And so I did that. I added the floral wire on both the bottom layer and the next layer up. And then at some point, maybe around that time, I decided to stop using the floral foam, that it just wasn't real, or the floral wire rather. It just didn't seem like it was necessary because the hot glue was holding really well. And I did put plenty of hot glue, and so there's a few places that I was able to see that hot glue. And what I did was I just took some brown paint and dabbed it over the top of anywhere that I saw the hot glue, and then it just looked like it was part of the tree trunk. And one of the reasons I decided to stop using this floral foam is because I also had to dab some paint over that so that you didn't notice that wire. And again, it was holding so well without it that I just didn't feel like it was necessary. But what I do is I glued that first layer on all the way around, and then the second layer I glued my pine cone in the center of the ones on the bottom so that it was kind of a staggered effect and it just looked more natural. And then I didn't have any bare spots that way. And once I got this made, I really pulled at those pine cones to make sure that it was going to be good and sturdy, and it was definitely very sturdy. And actually, before I got my video done, this one sold. Now, when I got finished with all of the limbs on it, then I just cut one of the pine cones in half and glued it straight up on the top, and that just finished that top. And then I took some white paint and just kind of dabbed it over some of those pine cones to give it a snowy look. And then obviously I put some Spanish moss down in the top of the bucket. But as you can see, that made a good tall one. I could have went just a little shorter, but I really like the look of the tall one. Now I'm going to do one more, and this was just a wooden triangle tree, and what I'm going to do is just glue the bark all over the front. And that was my first plan, was just to cover the front. But then I decided that I wanted to cover the back and the sides also. So I just glued it. I completely covered the front, and then I completely covered the back, and then I glued it over the sides and made sure that I hid any of the seams so that you didn't see down behind any of the bark and you didn't see any of the hot glue. But I think that made a neat little tree too. And once I got this covered, then I took a wooden dowel and cut about a 2-inch section of it and glued it to the bottom so that it would have a trunk, and then I glued that trunk to another one of those little tree rounds. Now what I did to glue these, because there was really no way of adding a screw or nail or anything, so what I did was I used a combination of both Tite Bond glue and hot glue. Now for my next video, again, I'm kind of done for the most part with Christmas decor, except that the kinds of things that are going on right now is Christmas gatherings and things, and so I just decided for my next one I'm going to do some little cute little ways to display your food. So it's just going to be kind of a quick one on some cute little ways to decorate your food table or your dessert table, actually. From things from the Dollar Tree. So again, I just covered the whole front and covered the whole back, and then started to cover those sides and making sure all my seams were covered as well. And it's really obvious here how messy this project was, but I will definitely be making some more of them because I did collect quite a bit of bark, and I do think that they will sell well. So here I'm just covering up those sides and making sure that all of the seams are covered as well. And this is what it looked like finished. Now I have some hang tags to show today. And the first ones are from Margaret Dillinger from South Carolina. And I think she made 4 of them. So here are some of the ones that she made. And I just love this one because this one is the true meaning of Christmas. I think this one is just beautiful, and I love, love, love this scripture. And Margaret even made the back of this one beautiful as well. And I just love the colors on this next one. I just think it has such a traditional look to it. And it's absolutely beautiful. And this is the other side, which is also just gorgeous. She did such a good job on these. And the next one was this little Santa. And I think this one is so sweet. I just love the look of these old-time Santas like this. And I love the ribbon that she used on this. The colors are just really pretty. And then the next one is this little red bird. And I love red birds. And I love that she dated this one. And I added these little shabby roses. I always love to see the shabby roses. And then she finished off the back with a sweet little message. And this beautiful hang tag comes from my home state in Tennessee. So this is from Gail from Athens, Tennessee. And Gail didn't say whether I could use her name. If you guys write your full name on your hang tag, or you write in the note that I can use your full name, then I'll use your full name. Otherwise, I'm just going to say your first name. But I think this is just beautiful. I love this little manger with the straw. Thank you so much, Gail and Margaret. These are just absolutely beautiful hang tags. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening, and God bless you and your family.